Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Craig Burrell, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Warrant Officer Class 1, Cheryl Elston. This evening, we warmly welcome Gerard Fogarty, Chief Executive Officer of Defence Health, and the accompanying delegation. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the hearts of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private Edward Charles Hewerdine. Edward Hewerdine, known as Ted, is thought to have been born on the 22nd of September 1923 in Marlborough, Queensland, the son of Elsie and Charles Hewerdine. His father had served with the 4th Pioneer Battalion in the First World War. Hewerdine enlisted in the militia in January 1939 at the age of 15, giving his birth date as 1920. He was called up for full-time duty with the 47th Battalion in December 1941. On the 26th of September 1942, he enlisted in the 2nd Australian Imperial Force, giving his occupation as farmer and timber cutter. He embarked aboard the ship Duntroon on the 9th of January 1943, arriving in Milne Bay, New Guinea, 3 days later. That year, the Allied forces in New Guinea began a major campaign to take the Japanese-occupied port of Lae. Australian forces were being directed towards Salamanu in order to divert Japanese forces from the main target. On the 23rd of August, the 5th Division, of which Hewerdine's 47th Battalion was part, took over the Allied advance on Salamanu, successfully taking the objective after 3 weeks of heavy fighting. 3 days before, on the 20th of August 1943, Hewerdine was with his battalion at Tambu Bay, part of a working party of troops on the beach near the village of Boise, unloading stores from the barges. When the enemy shelled the beach at 9:30, 4 men were killed, including Private Hewerdine. He was a month shy of his 20th birthday. Hewerdine was buried in the American cemetery at the village, but his remains were later reinterred at the Lae War Cemetery in Papua New Guinea under the inscription, "His duty nobly done, ever remembered." He was mourned by his parents, brothers, sisters and friends who placed in memoriam notices in the newspapers for years after his death. One, inserted by his sister Grace, read, "Deep in our hearts your memory is kept, for those who loved you will never forget." Private Edward Charles Hewerdine's name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Edward Hewerdine, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director and staff, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.